This is a 1986 Pontiac Fiero GT. While driving the other day, I noticed each time I put on the brakes, the car pulled to the right. A cordless impact driver makes removing wheels and tires effortless. I've recently rebuilt both back brakes, so I pulled the front wheels off. It didn't take long to find the cause of the problem. A seized front brake caliper. Preparing for surgery. I realized after I removed the piston that I had accidentally not turned the record button on. Steel wool lubricated with alcohol will remove any corrosion from the piston surface without damaging the chrome plating. I had never rebuilt a brake caliper before, but I thought with two seals it couldn't be that difficult. Lubricate the piston, the brake caliper bore, and both rubber seals with brake fluid. This will help prevent tearing the seals during installation. Installing the seal can be a little tricky with rubber gloves on. Slide the dust seal over the piston until the inner lip snaps into the groove. Carefully align a C-clamp to the center of the piston. Squeeze the piston slowly into the bore. This is a specialty brake tool that was designed for a two-piston caliper, and I made a slight alteration using an old brake pad and an aluminum disc. I'm exercising the brake caliper with air pressure to make sure it functions properly. Brake calipers are designed to float, so I'm using a high-temperature synthetic brake grease to lubricate the sliding components and the back surface of the brake pads to prevent sticking and squealing. Alcohol is used to clean any contamination off the braking material surface. A special bolt is used to attach the brake hose to the caliper. It's called a banjo bolt. It has a hole bored through the center to allow the brake fluid to pass. It requires a copper seal on each side of the brake hose. At $95 plus shipping, a brake seal kit for $7 sounded like a much better deal. Because the brake bolts are facing away from you, it's very easy to misinterpret the tightening direction of the bolts. These are internal wrenching bolts using a T25 Torx bit. Be sure to seat the brake hose carefully on the land and use both copper washers. Spin the brake rotor and listen for signs of rubbing. Turn the wheel to allow a torque wrench to access the brake caliper bolts. Proper torque of the banjo nut will prevent leaks. I use only DOT4 brake fluid because of its higher boiling point. A small hose clamp used on the bleeder hose could prevent a mess. The torque pattern for lug nuts is a star pattern. You skip every other lug nut going in a circle until you've tightened all of the lug nuts. I usually torque lug nuts in a series of 3 intermittent torques to be sure I get a proper and even amount of pressure. It's a little extra work, but even pressure will stop the lug nuts from loosening up over time. This reminds me of the time I got a flat tire out in front of the nut house. I pulled the wheel off and I set the lug nuts into the hubcap and I grabbed the spare tire out of the trunk, and as I rolled it forward I stepped on the hubcap and flung the lug nuts through the air and they rolled down the drain. I got so frustrated I grabbed the tire iron and started beating on stuff. Just about then, one of the lunatics looked out the window and started to yell out to me.
Hey, buddy, what the hell's going on? Do you need any help?
I need help, all right. I just lost all the lug nuts off of the front wheel down the drain.
Take one lug nut off of each of the other 3 and put it on your spare. That ought to get it.
That's a really great idea. I wish I would have thought of that. How come you're in there anyway?
Now, people might think I'm crazy, but I'm not stupid.